All right, so here we go. So we're doing the note cards. Please be quiet, baby. Please, okay? All right, that's fine. Okay, look. These are the note cards. We're on EOC review number 2. We already have EOC review number 1. Okay, we had 6 cards. Please, shh. I can hear it. All right, so now we're doing EOC reviews number 2. All right, so EOC review number 2, and this is on inequalities. EOC review 2. This is on inequalities. All right, so the first topic that we're going to do is the symbols. So on this first note card, which is actually going to be note card number 7. Okay, we did 1 through 6 already. Now we're doing number 7. Okay, so we're going to write down the inequalities, the symbols. So of course we have our equal sign. Don't forget, this is about. This is something you should already know. The one little symbol is similar. You sometimes get these confused, so I'm just going to put this under inequalities. These are extras. They're not inequalities, they're just extras. All right, so now you have the symbol that goes this way. This is your less than sign. We have a symbol that goes this way but has an equal under it. This is less than equal to. Okay, we have a symbol, the mouth is open this way. This is greater than. And then we have the same symbol but with an equal sign under it is greater than equal to. In order to solve inequalities, you're going to use the same directions that you use for solving an equation. This is card number 7. Okay? Card number 8. Are y'all okay? You still copying? All right.
Should we all be on the 7th card?
We're on the 7th card.
What about the
Everybody should be on number 7. You can go back and do the other ones because you got the video. Do you understand what I mean? No, I heard it for you. Okay, come on. All right, I'm moving to card number 8. Moving to card number 8. Card number 8 is going to be parts of an expression, okay? So we have to know the parts of an expression. Okay? So this is still EOC review 2. Inequalities. This is the section on inequalities. And under this section, we're still doing, we're going to do expressions, okay?
What is that bubble saying?
This one is about. This is the symbol for about. This is a little symbol right here. It's similar.
Okay.
Alright, so now I'm going to move to card number 8. But card number 8 is parts of an expression. There are 2 types of expressions that you need to know about. You have numerical expressions and algebraic expressions, okay? We have numerical and algebraic expressions. But let's talk about the different parts. We have 3n plus 7, okay? So the number in front of a variable is called the coefficient. That's the number in front of the variable. The variable that represents a number that we don't know, that letter is a variable. This is the unknown, or it's a letter that represents a number. It could be a symbol also. And then a number that has no variable attached to it is called a constant. A constant is a number that has no variable attached to it. Number that has no variable attached. Okay, and those are different parts. Coefficient, variable, constant. Coefficient, variable, constant. Okay? Terms are separated by an addition or subtraction sign. So there are two terms here. 3n is a term and 7 is a term. Terms are separated by addition or subtraction signs. Any questions? You okay?
You said terms?
Terms are separated by an addition or subtraction sign. That's it. You can go back and catch up later. So you just don't, because you're gonna keep being behind. You need to kind of know what I'm saying. Card number 9 is solving equations. Card number 9 is going to be, we're solving equations here. This is still under inequalities, but we're going to deal with solving equations. Okay, so at the top of that card, slide this up a little bit. At the top of that card, you should still have EOC Review 2, inequalities, but we're going to be dealing with solving equations. Title of this is Inequalities. I keep spelling that crazy. This is card number 9. This is solving. We're going to write the steps for solving equations. The first step, make sure that you do distributive property is first. Distributive property. Remember, distributive property can look in different ways. You might have a number or a variable in the front, like 3, in parentheses, x minus b. This is distributive property, where you multiply the 3 times both numbers in the parentheses. You could have the number in the back. Could be parentheses 7 plus n, and you could be distributing 2, and you would distribute the 2 by multiplying 2 to both numbers in the parentheses. The number does not always have to be up front, but wherever you see distributive property in the equation, do distributive property first. Okay? Second step is to is to move the variables to the same side, or combine like terms. That's right, you said it right the first time. Combine like terms on each side separately. Combine like terms on each side of equal sign separately. Do it separately before you start moving stuff. Combine like terms on each side of that equal sign separately before you start moving anything. So basically simplify both sides of the equal sign before you just start moving stuff around. The third step with solving an equation is to move the variables to the same side. So you're going to add or subtract to do that. If it's a positive 5x that you need to move to the other side, then you're going to subtract 5x to get it over to the other side. If it's a positive 4y to move to the other side, then you're going to subtract 4y to move it, okay? use inverse operations to do that. And the final step, number 4, is to isolate the variable. You're gonna isolate the variable. How do you isolate the variable? Use inverse operations. The one that we forget most often is the opposite of squaring a number. Well, let's do addition. The opposite of addition is subtraction. The opposite of multiplication is division. The opposite of squaring a number is square root. The opposite of cubing a number is cube root. We forget those. The opposite of addition is subtraction. The opposite of subtraction is addition. The opposite of multiplying, this is not just x. If you think you're going to think about that as x, then write the word multiply. The opposite of multiplication is division. The opposite of squaring a number is square root. They undo each other. The opposite of cubing a number is cube root. They undo each other. This is card number 9. Card number 10 under review number 2 is literal equations. Literal equations. I'm not going to do an example for solving equations because we've done a lot of examples of those. So I think y'all should be okay. Do you feel like I should do an example on the back? Yes or no? Do you want an example of this? Yes or no? Do you need an example? Okay. All right, card number 10. Okay, EOC review 2, and I'm doing this so we can keep up with the number, the order that the card should go in. The name of this review is Inequalities, okay? This is card number 10. It's more than inequalities in this, obviously, but that's just the name of the review. All right, so now we're solving literal equations. I am gonna do an example of this because when we did this at the beginning of the year, you all really did struggle with this, okay? Literal equations is where you have equations that have more than one variable. So I'll put a star beside it because this was super important. A literal equation, so you'll remember, literal equations have more than one variable. Literal equations have more than one variable. Literal equations have more than one variable. Okay. In order to solve a literal equation, when you solve a literal equation, you get that variable, you isolate that variable. To solve, isolate the variable you are solving for. You're not going to get just a single number. You're going to get an expression as an answer. Okay? You're not going to get like a single number as an answer. You're going to get an expression as an answer. Just isolate the variable. And we did a project on this back in the day. So now, yeah, that was second quarter? First quarter?
Was it the water pump project?
No, that was linear.
It was that little chart.
It was the chart where we had to isolate the variables and make your name. You have to use your name.
Yeah, that was first quarter.
All right, yeah, that was first quarter. Okay, so look, let's do an example. Okay, so let's do 5n plus P is equal to 7 plus W. Okay, so look, it's gonna tell you what to solve for. Let's solve for, N, okay? So that means you have to isolate N. So what you're gonna get rid of first, look at the side that has N on it. Are you gonna get rid of the 5 or are you gonna get rid of the P first? The P. How do you get rid of a positive P? Minus P on both sides. When you minus P on both sides, on this side you're left with 5N. On this side you have all of it. 7 plus W minus P. Why? Because look, none of those are like terms. You can't add them if they're not like terms. Now how do you get N by itself? Divide everything by 5. And so now what you have as your answer, N is now by itself and it's equal to this. It's equal to the alphabet. P comes first, so put P first. That's minus P, then W, that's plus W, and last is always the constant. The number goes last all the time. Divided by what number? 5. This is the answer. You could see it in a different order. Just make sure that the sign is in front of it. Okay? Any questions about that? Y'all okay? Literal equations. Card 11. Solving inequalities. EOC review. 2 is the title of this. This is card 11. And on this card, we are talking about solving inequalities. When you're solving inequalities, you're going to use the same steps for solving the equation. That's why we wrote the steps for solving the equation. So star, use same steps for solving equations. Use same steps for solving equations. You're going to use, the only thing that's going to be different is you're going to flip the sign. If you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, you flip the inequality. If multiply or divide both sides by negative, you're going to flip the inequality. If it's greater than, it's going to be less than. If it's less than, it's going to be greater than. Why, Ms. Reyes, do you have to flip the sign? Some people forget the why part. Why? Because if I have over here, let's see, if I have a negative 5 on this side and have a positive 6, which one is bigger? The negative 5 or the positive 6? Which one's bigger? 6. Okay, that's okay. Now let's multiply both sides by a negative. So let's multiply this by a negative and let's multiply this by a negative. So what's this gonna be? A negative times a negative is now gonna be what?
Positive.
A positive 5. And this is gonna be now what now? A negative 6. So now which one's bigger?
5.
The 5 is bigger. Do you see? So when you multiply by a negative, that's gonna make the inequality flip because of that reason. Any questions? Okay. We're gonna do one, oh no. We're just gonna leave it like that. We should be okay. All right, any questions? All right, this is card 12. EOC review.
250.
Yeah, review 2. We got, the title is Inequalities, and this is card number what? 12. Slide this over a little bit. Alright, so the title of this one is graphing, we're gonna graph linear equations. Bless your heart. Okay, this is kind of what we did today, so I'm just gonna reiterate the steps and move on. When you're graphing a linear equation, the equation must be written in slope-intercept form. So you can't graph it if it's not in y equals mx plus b. So star must be in slope-intercept form. And we're talking about straight lines. It has to be in slope-intercept form. It has to be. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. If it's not written in that form, you gotta write it in that form. You gotta isolate the y and write it in this form. So the steps, and we talked about this today. The first step, after it's written in this form, is you label m and b. You label your m as your rise over run, and you label your b, which is your y-intercept. You have to label your m and your b. After you label your m and your b, you're gonna graph your b on the y-axis. Graph b on y-axis. And then you're gonna use your slope to put points on the line. Use slope, which is the rise over run, to put points on the line. Any questions about this card? And remember, we went over graphing today, so are you good with that?
Yeah, that's what we did in class.
Yeah,
That's what we did in class.
That's what I was thinking.
Y'all okay with that? Okay. All right, card 13,
How many do we have? This is the last one.
this is the last one.
We are moving so fast.
I'm sorry, because remember, y'all gotta be out of here at a certain time, right?
Yeah, they do.
Alright.
They don't.
So EOC, but I need you to finish before you leave, you know? EOC review 2, inequalities. I mean, you can always, people are always gonna be able to pause the video.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not worried really about the speed part. This, you can pause.
I thought that's why we were going fast.
Yeah, that is why. And because you all, I want you to finish it.
Come on.
All right, so inequalities, we got this. We're graphing them. This card is talking about graphing inequalities. And it's graphing linear inequalities, by the way.
Like put that in parentheses.
Yes, they're still linear. Okay, we're gonna use the same rules as before. Use the same rules for graphing linear equations. The only thing that's gonna be different is that you're gonna be shading, okay? So with this, you're gonna be shading. Okay? So this is how the shading works. You're not gonna have an equal sign because it's an inequality. You're gonna have those inequality symbols that we wrote on the first card. So on the first thing we talked about was the less than sign. It looks like this. This is less than. So if instead of the equal sign you have a less than sign, you're gonna shade under the line. The line is gonna be a dash line and you shade under. That looks like this, dash line, and you're gonna shade under the line. The other is less than, equal to. And it's gonna be a solid line this time because it's equal to. And you're still gonna shade under. So instead of it being this little dotted or dashed line, it's gonna be a solid line and you're gonna shade under the line. Two more. Greater than and greater than equal to. Greater than sign goes like this. Since there's no equal to, it's gonna be a dash line. And you're gonna shade above the line because it's greater. So above the line, if my line's going this way, oops, it should be dash. Above the line is this way. What's wrong?
I'm trying to see what your head was in the way.
My hand is in the way?
Your head was in the way.
Oh, sorry, I got a big head. So I'm okay with it. I'm self-aware.
It was late.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's what's hard about sitting right there, because sometimes I cannot see anything.
Yeah, no.
Brayden asked her if she knew what a gout was.
I didn't know what he said. I couldn't hear him.
Good.
All right, shh. I couldn't hear nothing he said. I'm sorry. I just said. All right. Then we got greater than. Shh. Don't talk about people. I'm recording. Shh. Greater than. Equal to. So since it's equal to, it's a solid line. And you're shading, since it's greater than, how do you gonna shade? Above. So again, it's a solid line. Let's suppose the solid line's going up. You're shading above the line, on top of the line.
What's the last one?
That's the last one.
I got an extra card, bro.
Did I got an extra card?
Oh yeah, I got an extra one.
What's okay?
It's fine. Oh yeah, because I remember I remember
Can
I
we use the bathroom now?
Yeah, go ahead, babe.
I remember in fifth
Can we take
period.
a group bathroom break?
No, I'm about to leave.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to stop the video because I'm done with the note part.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.